Alright, time for the last video on the real world system of equations problems. So read through this one, make sure you know what's going on, and pick what your variables are going to be. Alright, for this one I'm choosing A to represent the number of model A presses and B to represent the number of model B presses. And so if you look through your statement here, look for key information like model A can make 70 books, model B can make 55 books in a day. A company owns 14 total. Well, that statement right there tells me I need to get a total of 14, and that's just describing the number of presses. Well, then you just take A and add B. A is the number of model A, B is the number of model B, so add them together and you should get 14. The next statement here, it allows them to make to print 905 books per day, so that's another total. I'm going to get 905. Well, there's B presses and A presses, and we're going to have to get some sort of total here, adding them up. And each press can make a certain amount of books. The A makes 70 books, so I should do 70 times the number of A presses. And the B ones can print 55 books a day, so I should do 55 times the number of model B presses. So there's my system, and now I just need to solve it, and I'll be good to go. So here I have my system. I'm gonna solve my first one for B. So I'm gonna do I want to do a substitution method, I guess. So my first equation when I solve for B is gonna give me 14. B equals 14 minus A. Now I know what B is. I can take that and plug it in for B. And so now I can rewrite this second equation to be 70A. That's 70. Plus 55, and then B is 14 minus A, and then that equals 905. Distribute that 15 through, and we'll get 7DA plus, well, shoot, man, I don't know what 55 times 14 is here. Let me use my calculator. 55 times 14 is going to give me 770. And 55 times A is going to be 55A. And on the right side we still got 905. And I now need to get my A's by themselves, so I'm going to subtract 770 from both sides. And on the left side I'll combine like terms while I'm at it. 70 plus negative 55 gives me 15A. And then on the right side, 905 minus the 770 is going to give me 135. I just need to divide both sides by 15. And I'll get A equaling, let's see what we get, 9. So there are 9 A presses. And once you have your solution there, you can take that and plug it into our what B is equal to equation, and B is just equal to 14 minus 9, which is 5. So there are 5 B presses and 9 A presses. So there's that one. Moving on to 13, read through that, make sure you know what's going on, and figure out what your variables are. So I decided to use F for my number of forks and P to represent my number of spoons, because my S's look a lot like 5, so I don't want to confuse them. So I'm going to use P for spoons instead of S. Anyway, so there I have my variables, and I know that this store costs $170 to make a fork and $130 to make a spoon, and that they spent $37.90 making the forks and the spoons and all that. Oh, forks and the spoons. So that's going to give me a total of $37.90. So there's that. And I need to have the cost of forks and the cost of the spoons. To get the cost of the forks, you have to do 1.7 times F to get the cost of the forks. And you have to do 1.3 to get the cost of the spoons. So there we go. There's going to be my first equation. They also sold and got a total of $147.20. Well, that comes from selling, and they had to sell forks and spoons. When they sell a fork, that's $5.60. I should use it as 5.6. And then selling a spoon is $5.40 or 5.4. And so that's my my two equations. There's my system. I just need to solve it now. Alright, so here's my system. And notice it has all these like decimals here, and really I could go about calculating stuff. What I think I want to do right now is actually get rid of all my decimals, and I can do that by timesing everything by 10. So I'm going to do that real quick. Each times everything by 10, you're basically going to have your same numbers, except there's no decimals. So 379, and then the other one was 56f plus 54p. And you can do that. You can multiply an entire equation by any number that you want that's not 0. So I just took all this and times by 10. And hopefully that'll make things a little bit easier for myself. Let's see. Okay, so these numbers aren't particularly nice to deal with, but you can still go about like solving this. In particular, you can take both your equations and try to get the same coefficient. And one way to do that is just multiply the top. I'm going to get my p's to have a common coefficient. So I'm going to take my first equation and times everything by 54. I'm going to take my second one and times by negative 13, mostly because I want to have different signs there, because I'm just going to get my p's by itself. So I'm going to take my first one and take 17 times 54 to get 918f. And 13 times 54 is going to give me 702. And then 379 times 54 is going to give me 20,466. There's a p with that. And my second one, if I take 56 and times by negative 13, I'll get negative 728. And the f goes with it. And it'll be subtract 702. I already know that because I designed it that way. And then take that 1,472 times it by 13, and you'll get, well, negative 13. You'll get negative 19,136. And now I can actually add those two equations together. So this is kind of like where I'm at right now. If I add those together, the p's are going to disappear. Just take that 918 and subtract the 728. This will give me 190f. And then on the right side there, take that 20,466 and subtract out the 19,136. And that'll give you 1,330. Now I just need to divide by what's in front of f, which is 190. What you do to one side, you do the other. You get f equals 7. Alright, we got the number of forks. It's 7. Yay! And we can take that and actually, let's plug it into this equation here. So this version 2 of that equation. So I got 17 times 7 plus 13p equals 379. I need to do 17 times 7, which will give me 119. And then I still got plus the 13p equals 379. Divide both sides, not divide, subtract 119 from both sides, and you'll get 13p equals 379 minus 119 is 260. And divide both sides by 13, and you'll get p equaling 260 divided by 13 is 260 divided by 13. Sorry, 260 divided by 13. Keep messing it up because it's going to be 20. So 20 spoons, 7 forks, and that one's good to go. And man, jeez, this one is taking forever. All right, let's move on to 14. This one you got a plane going into flying with the wind, and that gives you 183. And read through and you'll figure out what the situation is and figure out your variables. So these are my two variables, and actually this one's actually fairly easy to set up because my first statement, if you fly with the wind, that's like you got the speed of your plane and you add on the speed of the wind and that gives you your total speed. Well, that total is just 183. And if you fly into the same wind, instead of having your speed of your plane and adding the wind speed, you have to subtract it because you're going against the wind. So it's like pushing against the plane as you're going along. And that's going to give you a total of 141 kilometers per hour. And now my system is already set up. And actually solving this, I can do this right on the screen here. If you add those two equations together, you'll get 2p. On the right side, 183 plus 141 is going to give me 324. Divide both sides by 2. And the speed of my plane is just going to be 162 kilometers per hour. And so I can take that number and plug it into my equation up here. And that'll give me, 162 plus some number is going to give me 183. If you subtract 162 from both sides, you'll get what W is, which is just going to be 21. So the wind speed is 21 and the plane speed is 162. And that one's good to go. And that brings us to the last one. 15, read through that, make sure you know what's going on, and try and figure out what your variables are going to be. So as I read through that, I realized I need to find the cost of each pie. So I'm going to let A be the cost of the apple pie, L to be the cost of the lemon pie, and actually these two sentences here tell us our totals. They basically just write out the equations for us. Our first one says that I need 6 apple pies, so 6A. And then 4 lemon meringue pies, that's 4L. When you sell that many, you get a total of $80. That should be $80. And then my second one, which is 6 apple pies and 5 lemon meringue pies, gives you a total of 94. There's my system. I'm ready to go. And so let's copy this over real quick. So I copied it over, and this system's actually already set up for elimination. Notice these 6's are the same from both my A's. So if I take my entire second equation and just subtract all those pieces, I'll get 6A minus 6A, which is 0A. 4L minus 5L is going to give me negative L. And then 80 minus 94 is going to give me negative 14, which means L has to be 14 if you times both sides by negative 1. So I know the cost of a lemon meringue pie is 14. I can take that and plug it into my first equation there to get 6A plus 4 times 14 equals 80. And I can solve for A to get my cost of my apple pie. 4 times 14 is going to give me 56. And I just need to subtract that 56 from both sides. And we'll get 6A equals 24. And you divide both sides by 6. And you'll have the cost of the apple pie equaling $4, which is a killer deal. Holy cow. Lemon meringue was 14, apple pie was 4. Anyway, so there's all your solutions. We are finally done with the real world system of equations problems.